Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the silhouette of my good friend Paul that has been consumed by Mardi Gras. How are you doing, silhouette of Paul?
Hello, Alejandro.
And no longer a silhouette. That is, I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm just...
I am the embodiment of Mardi Gras currently.
of clownery? Embodiment
Yes.
of clown.
I have my nice little beach hat. I've got my round sunshades that I picked up, oddly enough, at a Comic-Con. And I've got some beads that I actually just got off of Bourbon Street.
And you look a little dark.
Oh, yeah, that's because of this reason.
There
There it is. Hey!
There it is.
That is me.
So, Paul, how are you enjoying the clownery considering the things that are happening in the world right now?
Well, there's a lot going on.
Right.
It turns out Activision decided they wanted to do some certain things, and then they started a war out of it.
Yep.
They wanted to get real life examples for what their next team death matches are going to be about. And
then I saw the someone made the horrible joke. It was like, they are, well, I'm gonna save it for news when we actually read, because there's some Call of Duty stuff here. But yeah, it's like, not to kind of bury the lead, but yeah, it's like horrible stuff that's happening over there in Europe. The Ukraine invasion by the Russian government, not Russian people.
Yes,
the Russian people are very clear they're not fans of what's happening there, but some horrible stuff showing up in social media. It's like, it's kind of weird feeling, that kind of weird feeling of knowing something's amiss somewhere in the world, and we're kind of here just like with that anxiousness of what could happen. But hey, sometimes when those things happen, you need a little escape from reality for a little bit, and that's why this podcast is thankfully for us.
We're here for, and
yes.
I'm glad that you did say that at the start, because absolutely we do not condone any of that. We absolutely denounce whatever's going on over there. But then we're also caught in that weird place where we're so far away that there's almost no way to really help besides donate to the right sources and then keep moving on. And that fighting that has been a weird feeling for me lately, but that's what we're here for, to kind of provide that escape while also supporting the right places.
Exactly. And our thoughts and prayers are with all the people in Ukraine. The people are like escaping from there. Plus there are people from other countries that were in the country as they were fleeing everything that's happening there. Hopefully this conflict doesn't keep just escalating and escalating. But yeah, this is the X Button podcast, or gaming podcast that posts every Wednesday from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing. Available in the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world. Think Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/Escape Media. Paul, despite the horribleness happening there, at least in the gaming world, we've been eating good. Like,
there's been a feast.
Yeah, a feast going. So, and thankfully we've been literally playing the same games.
Yep. It's helped that all of these have been either delayed from previous years, or we've been looking for them forward to them for at least 2 or 3 years as well.
Two of these were originally 2021 stuff before they got pushed, and then one of these, the big one, was a January game that then got pushed. But yeah, I mean, have you kept playing Horizon after we did the big episode last week?
No.
Yeah.
I as soon as Witch Queen came out, I started playing that a lot, and then by the time I got, like, I kind of bounced back and forth. Elden Ring came out, and I was like, I can't do both of these at the same time, so I'm gonna wait until I either hit a really big wall on Elden Ring or feel myself like losing steam, and then I'll jump back into Horizon. But right now, I think it's hard for me to like bounce between 3 different things, because I get way too excited, and I'll be playing a different game, wanting to play the other game.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be for me, because then I don't enjoy myself while I'm doing it. So I'm trying to just bounce between the two.
No, like this week's games like completely overshadow Horizon for me. Like I said it last week, Horizon delivered everything I wanted plus more. But then these other two also delivered in a way. So I haven't much played Horizon.
Why were they all good?
Yes, exactly, right?
If one of them was bad, I wouldn't feel bad about it.
But no, they turned out to exceed expectations in some way, shape, or form. And I did jump to Horizon late last night, just kind of like as a little palate cleanser. And I tell you, it's like it felt good to be back, especially visually. I was like, oh right, this game does look really great.
Yeah.
But my mind was still in the other one. So yeah, there's something to be said about juggling 3 different games. But even in the little bit that I was there in Horizon, I tell you, some of the discoveries I made in Horizon, I even texted you there.
Yeah.
Like if you ever went to like a particular city from West in the US, that they made a really stunning recreation in an interesting way, considering the time Horizon is set on.
Right.
That I was like, man, I can't wait for you to see that. So Horizon is just as fun as always.
Go back for sure, because one of the fun of it was finding the real life things in Horizon, and I haven't been disappointed yet. But I also have not even touched the surface of what Horizon has to offer. But I feel like that about all 3 of these games that have come out.
Exactly, especially with the first one that came out during the week, which was Destiny 2 Witch Queen, my second most anticipated thing from 2022, and I'll just say this, as someone that has played Destiny since 2014 nonstop, 8 years have passed. I cannot believe the best of Destiny is happening this late in the cycle still. Whenever you think something's like long in the tooth, sometimes when you're much later on, that's when things start getting a little bit more wobbly or going downhill. But man, the Witch Queen expansion, it's how is this not a full game? Just saying, just asking, how is this not priced as a full game? Obviously, there's the deluxe edition.
We talked about it, and it was like, yeah, you got the deluxe edition for
$80.
$80. But like the main expansion is $40, and it comes with an entire campaign that is the entire length of any one like Halo or Call of Duty campaign, with just as much care in the plot, focus on the encounters, environments, voice acting.
Remember when they said
stuff going on
during the Vidoc or the Witch Queen reveal we watched on August? They literally name dropped, if you're a fan of campaigns like Doom, Titanfall, and the like,
and it feels like it.
They were like, we're finally doing it, because campaigns were always for Destiny almost afterthoughts in a way, because they knew that the meat was in the post game.
Right.
And in the campaigns, at least for difficulty and length, it's like those campaigns were 1 or 2 hours long sometimes. The Beyond Light was like 3 hours. This one was a 6 to 8 hour one.
Yeah, I remember each time I'd get through a mission, I was like, wait, there's more?
Oh yeah,
I kept expecting them to kind of pull the rug out from under you and be like, all right, now to see the real conclusion, go play this raid or play that game mode. But it was like a full thing that was crazy.
And then on top of that, for a series that originally was lambasted for either how bad its story was or for not having a story, how they've really turned around the whole story perception into them being able to like really pick so many threads that started either from the Grimoire cards from Destiny 1 that you could only access through the computer.
Oh my
to
gosh,
tiny little kernels of narrative they finally started improving from Taken King onward back in 2015. The ongoing storytelling that happened all throughout year 4, which was the Beyond Light year, to now here. It feels like they watched Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and see how they picked all those pieces and it took inspiration from that. It feels like that. Everything has that's kind of weight of the build up and anticipation,
especially near the end. That last cutscene, I felt like Thanos vibes from all of that. I was like, wait, so they've been building up Witch Queen and all this stuff, and then there's more to come after that, and like the design for these characters is so cool. Specifically the one in my head that I know you're thinking of, related to the stuff, was so cool to look at. And I want to see what like oh my gosh, I've got so much notes on that side of it with like the design and the uniqueness of things. So like Destiny has a very specific aesthetic, and it's like Halo meets supernatural wizard shenanigans. And
more than ever, Witch Queen is that.
But it's like every single time, no matter how different all of it is, you can look at any one either screenshot or weapon, you're like, that's from Destiny. You look at the armor, that's from Destiny, like, you know it. And it's so cool because it's one of those things that you don't notice unless it's wrong. And you're like, okay, this doesn't match with what we're going for anymore. I don't know what's going on. But Destiny just consistently keeps hitting 10s.
Mm-hmm.
And
in the art department, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially just within the new destination, the throne world is like so much variety within that big world.
Yeah, I was worried it was going to be just the swamp like we had seen in the trailers, and it is a lot more than that. There's the caves, the crazy cathedral castle place was. I love walking through that because it's atmospheric as heck.
The astral kind of like altered dimensioning things that you go that are like all purplish. The Hellmouth,
an improvement over the Season of the Lost, which at first I really liked, and then I realized because you pull away all of the color, it really starts to drain on you after a while, week to week, having to go back in, because everything's mostly black and white with like a little purple tint, but they really improved that now where it's a lot more visually interesting to go through those areas.
It made sense there because you were dealing with the Taken. The Taken is about literally extracting like essence, and it's just like a black and white thing. But that being the season that was like 6 months long, and that was like the activity going into the Shadow Realm, that would become a little monotonous to see. There's nothing. Every time that I look at Witch Queen, it's like visually pleasing. It really feels like the art designers for Destiny had the time of their lives designing this, and all the great design shown everywhere from that entire campaign to the post-game stuff. And it's been a while since I played an expansion where I'm like, oh my god, there's so much to do, so many viable places to go that sometimes you don't feel like you're scratching the surface. And then you go back to and this was just the $40 expansion. I haven't even touched the seasonal stuff that's where the deluxe edition kind of comes in. I'm like,
now the seasonal stuff, that is the stuff involving the spear, right?
Yeah, Kaitel and the Cabal
and the psyops and all that. Okay.
Yes.
I'm currently messing with the psyops, and I don't know if it was a bug, but I went into the psyops playlist and it loaded up a regular battlegrounds for me one time. I was like, I've been here before. Wait a second. And I went through the whole thing and realized I like got in the wrong playlist somehow. But that was really funny. But anyway, just the variety of each of those things. I mean, I know people are memeing on the Wellspring right now, but there's the Wellspring, the psyops, all the improvements to every other area of the game between Gambit, Crucible, Vanguard, the actual storyline. There's the world sandbox area, and it's just, there's so much going on. I don't know how they were able to keep it kind of together. I kind of feel bad for anybody coming back to the game right now.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh yeah, there's so much stuff, we're going to take some away. And then they just add all sorts of different new things to do and focus on that if I didn't already keep it straight in my mind what was already supposed to be there and what's new now, I would be lost as heck.
Yeah.
And there's no way for me to know, like, when I'm looking at the map, what thing is like kind of tied to which part of it. And that throws me off a little bit, but I'm like, man, I'm eating good with Destiny, and it's so fun. The new weapons, the
weapon crafting
aspects, Void 3.0, which for anybody listening that doesn't understand, Destiny has 4 different classes,
power classes.
Yeah, there you go. And they just completely revamped one of them after the inclusion of the 4th. So Void was the first one that they're doing that with, and they completely changed. It's so busted in the best way.
Yes, and that's a key, because when they introduced Stasis, which was the 4th subclass, the darkness like freezing subclass last year, they introduced it in a busted in a bad way state where it was like destroying other modes outside PvE. Like PvP was a disaster when Stasis got introduced. That they literally spent almost half a year nailing at it for it to not feel like so oppressive in its use, that then when they finally nailed the coffin with Stasis, for it to finally be in that, okay, we haven't nerfed it so much that it's not fun to use, but it's not gonna dominate the proceedings with everything. With Void, it feels like they hit that middle spot they eventually reached with Stasis, like almost immediately. And it bodes really well whenever they do Arc 3.0 and Solar 3.0 throughout this year, because Destiny now feels like a full game that now fully embraces build diversity. They started toying with that with like the armor mods. You had your grenade build that you did in Season of the Lost. I always had the charge with light build that to me was just simple. It was universal. I didn't have to like specifically always tie myself to armor, so I didn't toy. But it's good that Destiny has been doing that, because that's the MMO route that makes it infinitely customizable.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that reminded me they changed the way that you can change aspects of armor in the Witch Queen. I'm not sure if you saw it yet, but like, in order to change something from, say, Arc to Void of like on the armor itself.
That's been a while. That's been there for a while.
You could, but it cost a ton of stuff. If you had it fully masterworked, it costs ascendant shards. It was like really pricey and really difficult. Now all it takes is one upgrade module and 50,000 glimmer, and you can change the entire
even if
setup.
You have the fully upgraded armor.
If you have it fully upgraded,
that's great. That's
so
really
good. I was able to switch things over from the way the solar was, because at first I was like, crap, I'm gonna have to find an entirely different piece of armor that's gonna be that subclass, and then I'm gonna have to make sure it has a good roll and a good number on it, and then I can make sure that works. But then they were like, okay, no, just spend the upgrade module, spend the glimmer, and then you could switch your entire setup around for the price of like a couple of guns. And that it felt so good, because I immediately got into the new build for Void and I can't go back. I basically, it's doing what mine did before, but I am not just tied to only the grenade, and the exotic I can use boosts everything that I have. So it's like, just like you said, where it's the Bungie 30-second rule.
Yeah, the 30 second of fun. The 30 seconds of fun.
That's the one where like I get the shield throw, the barricade that gives me overshield, and the grenade, and each time I use one of them, the others get boosted recovery. And I literally have not touched my gun sometimes, because I'm just throwing everything.
It's a power fantasy. It's like the power fantasy is just embraced, and it's not like being shied away from. And at this point, like, no one seems, I haven't seen much like screaming saying that you gotta nerf this. It's like destroying something. So I know they did something right.
I hope they don't nerf it. Yeah. I so hope they don't, because I have no complaints at all about anything they did. I loved the shield throw. I hated most of the melee classes for Void, where like they had their use, but it didn't really do much to me. But now I can like, it's distance.
You're a Titan, having the shield throw like intrinsically your melee, your charge melee now, instead of just having to wait to pop the shield for it to be the thing.
Right.
Big change. Because
it's so helpful.
It has the little distance for a class that's usually more up close and personal.
Yeah.
That would make Titan something unviable in high-end content where you can get slapped.
And you have to like, you saw it where I was trying to do the Nightfall problem, and I had to run and pick up everything that dropped to keep my process going. And now I don't have to get even close to them. I throw things, I throw the other thing, I activate the other thing, and the first thing's back. It's great. So it's been a lot of fun messing with it, and I feel like it's going to be a long time before I get tired of everything Destiny added.
Speaking of fun, what about that legendary campaign? Yes.
Oh, that is tough. That is so tough. And I want to go back now that I've changed things up, because I feel like I do a lot better. But man,
yes, it's like, it's no joke when I say that if you ever played a game like Doom Eternal in like ultra difficulty, they have kind of like channeled that experience into the legendary campaign, and it's something that I haven't ever seen so universally loved. Just how everyone loves to be challenged with Destiny, because Destiny, for the most part, unless you're doing a raid, it's usually a cakewalk. That's why sometimes you feel the cakewalk and then go to that and then you get slapped. I was talking to you in private about that. Like when we were doing the Nightfall the week before Witch Queen, trying to just farm stuff, that sometimes you have to like separate yourself from the fun and the optimal. And that's always something that really breaks your mind. And there is no true optimal way to play right now, because it's the beginning and they tuned that right in a way that you're always going to be challenged. But
like, there's not one mod that's the specific broken one. There's not one weapon that's the specific broken one.
Mhm.
Each class has different options and approaches. It's just all viable and fun.
Mhm.
And that's all I've ever wanted.
Exactly, and seeing how many people, even in first times, have been able to conquer through that legendary campaign, that really tells me it's like they tuned the difficulty right. And let's not forget that Halo was the master of difficulty, like the Bungie Halo with legendary.
You got to go back to the source of it, because they don't use legendary lightly.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't take it seriously enough until recently, and I was like, oh yeah, they meant it as this is that challenge.
Especially mission 3, that meme that I sent you, the Terminator and the waifu girl like hiding beneath the desk, is like, that's perfect, like the perfect representation, especially the third mission, the ghost mission. I will never forget that, because I started the campaign, did the first 2 missions, and then because you're a clan mod, I'm also a clan. We're clan admins for Clan Chaotic. If you're looking for a clan, join ours.
Join us. We talk. We hang out.
Oh yeah. So our other clan admin, Vance, he invited me to do legendary, because I started normal, because I was like, I have this mindset of, I always love my first run through of anything to be pure, especially especially with story-based stuff. And now that I really care about the story, sometimes I hate the idea of tainting my first experience over sometimes the frustration of running your head against the wall against something. So I did the first 2 missions, and then our clanmate asked me, "Yeah, want to help me with legendary for the first one?" Yeah, I'll do those first 2 missions again. It's like, oh yeah, it's like legendary is no joke. And then you mentioned something, I thought you were in mission 2, so I was like, I'm gonna jump in and help you. And then I didn't realize you were in the middle of mission 3 when you were getting like barraged by the scorched the loosened hive, that is like the hunter blade barrage. And then I immediately joined, and I got like rained by
like
all the
destroyed
knives
in one shot. And because like on legendary, that move is a one-shot kill if you're not behind something. And I wasn't really optimized in the way it was. I still had my old build, and it just wasn't doing it for me.
And what made it funnier was because you were in the mission farther. I was like, oh, spoilers, and I immediately left you.
Wait, see, you didn't say spoilers at first?
Yeah.
Because so in my head it was, yeah, I'll join you, and then you're leaving the other people you were playing with, and they're like, wait, you're leaving?
Yeah.
And so you join me. 5 seconds in, you die, and you go, all right, I'm leaving.
And I go back to them.
What? I was honestly a little pissed for a second. I was like, he just joined me and just quit out because he died.
No,
and then I realized after the fact that it was because I was actually further along.
Yeah, you're further along because I had doubled back down for legendary. Because had I been in that mission and did it there, it would be like, yeah, I'll stay here. It's my normal progression. But
because I knew you better than that, I was like, he doesn't just leave after dying. What is going on?
Exactly.
Oh, it was so funny, because I was so confused. And man, that was great.
And I'm just glad that there is a reason to do the legendary campaign, because when you complete all those missions, you get the 1520 armor that you can infuse. So that's
the exotic
helm.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. And there was a choice of like something else, and I always forget because everyone picks the exotic armor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like the fact that you could do that, and that's why I started on legendary at first, because everyone was like, just do that, and if you can beat it, you get 1520 armor, which means basically you don't have to grind really slow throughout everything to do that.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was like, oh, this is genius. No.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing, like, unless you are one that you don't care your first run through to be like a challenge, I mean, go for it. I'm like,
glad I switched over.
Yeah, I switched over, finished. It was still fairly challenging for normal. I was like, this is interesting. It's like that. I'm like, I was like, there's a couple moments here in normal that kind of like put me like out of my comfort zone, and that's really cool because Destiny hasn't been like this in the campaign front for so darn long. And but then you have that challenge, and the thing is that we are recording before reset. I can't wait to see what they add, because remember, like, Bungie's the expert of adding new stuff every week sometimes. So
have they talked about what they're supposed to add? Because I'm totally in the dark about that.
They haven't said anything, but it's just expectation, because they've been doing that with pretty much every expansion since Forsaken. It's like this. Okay. This is not going to stay static for a while, especially with seasonal stuff.
I
also in the
appreciate that
periphery.
because there's always something going on, or it's, hey, this group is doing, or this matched mode is getting like double XP, and it's like there's always like, oh yeah, I haven't played that in a little while, and then all of a sudden 4 hours are gone. And I don't think I've really been disappointed in Destiny outside of like when it was a little longer for that last season, and I was like, man, I'm getting a little tired. But like you've said, Destiny's okay with like, or Bungie is okay with you taking a break, leaving, and coming back because they know that you'll come back because they always have really good stuff to
They've gotten better at that. Before there used
into.
to be FOMO of like you had to always be logged in, and that extended season was like from like late October to November. I didn't touch the game at all until the 30th anniversary pack, and then the pack was there for it to be there.
And it's still there for anyone
and it's still
joining.
there. Yes.
That reminds me though, speaking of FOMO, I would say the only thing they could have improved was not waiting for the final conclusion of the previous season to be the week before.
Yeah, I would agree with that because
I think so many people probably missed that, and they're like, wait,
and it launched busted also. It launched busted that.
That's true, because it wasn't letting you actually watch the cutscene if somebody skipped it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
They tied it that if someone hit skip, it would skip the entire fire teams like looking at the final cutscene. That's unacceptable. It's like they should have done like 3 weeks at least, have the people to because I kind of get the idea of like, oh look, it's like the final week that's gonna lead into this, but there's excitement at that and there's things can go wrong, and it was a 50-50. I hope they don't do that again and they do more stuff that can have at least more time, a little bit more time, because I know some people are like, man, I'm on vacation. That sucks.
If you were gone that 1 week and you didn't know, because I don't think they even talked about it really before. They were just like, yep, it's coming, and they were like, it's today.
so the raid launches this Friday, and if they do what they did with Forsaken and Beyond Light, after the first team clears that raid, more content should pop up. Like for example, with Beyond Light, that was one of the cooler ones, that the Deepstone Crypt that you go to, spoiler because you never played Deepstone Crypt, hopefully I get you through it. It's like that. What's cool about that raid is that you go to space, like from the ground, and you go to like a space station, and halfway through that raid your whole space station comes crashing down to Europa with some nuclear bombs that you have to disarm before the thing hits. But then the Deepstone Crypt hits, and a bunch of debris, you're always seeing it fly down in Europa after the fact, and then that unlocks more quests after. So there's always the possibility that when because the Forsaken, the Last Wish raid, when someone which was Glad, the YouTuber Glad, and his clan Redeem, after 18 hours straight playing that raid in launch day, they beat it, and then the curse of the Dreaming City started there. Kind of like, it's like, yeah, you beat the boss, and the boss's final parting gift is cursing the Dreaming City in this 3-day
which
loop.
is actually mentioned in Witch Queen, near the end of it, I think.
One of the missions you fight basically what's the boss of Last Wish, obviously in an easier way.
I remember seeing like videos of that raid, and I was like, wait, I recognize this thing, why is that here? And then they actually mentioned it in dialogue. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Because one thing I want to jump in and I'll give it back to you is that Destiny has like time passing, but it's like in week to week strings, but like it feels like time actually passes, just with the recently found out bridge in the whatever it's called,
the astral alignment.
Astral alignments was being built periodically through each week, and we only found it out like right before the end, and then people had to pull screenshots of like in the corner when they realized, wait, it was over there, and it was just like this amount, and now by the end it's like all the way built, and all the other stuff in the background.
They literally started doing this with season 10, Season of the Worthy. That was the season that happened when quarantine started in 2020. That whole season was about the almighty ship coming to crash to Earth, and in the final few weeks, if you were at the tower and looked at the sun, you started seeing a dot that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then a very specific day where you had that kind of like Fortnite-like live event of seeing the of you being in the instance and seeing that ship kind of crashing. That took like an hour and 30 of just staring at the sun and wondering if things had gone bad. But they had the idea now of having that kind of live event. Obviously inspired by Fortnite. I hate that game, but they inspired some cool stuff. So
of all things, after they have been copying everything else, they created something really cool.
Because when those things are executed well, it's really cool to think just in a technical level. So we'll see after whoever does the raid. I don't know if I'll be raid ready or if we're even gonna have a team to be able to do that.
No way.
But it's always fun. Like getting to see raid races, always a fun time in Destiny. So I can't wait. It's like that could have been, if that had been the only thing releasing this week, that would have been enough. Because especially as I'm an uber fan of Destiny. You're a recent virgin, so a recent Destiny
inexperienced, but
yeah, you're someone that hasn't been in and out of that series for the 8 years. You dipped in and out, and now you're kind of fully in. It's like that would have been enough. But of course, then the other biggest anticipated game of the year had to also drop 2 days later. Yes.
Literally getting most anticipated game last year at the Game Awards.
And winning it twice. So
yeah.
Before we talk about that, Paul, Paul, press X.
For some news.
All right, this is one of the first times that, even though we're still talking about the games we've been playing, this comes hand in hand with the news because it's something worth talking about. Number one, Paul, have we finally gotten a new contender for greatest game of all time? It would appear so based on the critic community. Elden Ring, the much anticipated game from legendary Dark Souls creator Hidetaka Miyazaki, with a collaboration with George R.R. Martin, released last Friday to high critical acclaim. Currently averaging a Metacritic score of 97 after 60 reviews on PS5, and a 95 on Series X after 8 reviews, and a 95 on PC after 41 reviews recorded. Elden Ring is both the highest rated new game of 2022, surpassing Horizon Forbidden West's Metacritic score just the week before.
89.
And the PS5 edition ties recent games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Grand Theft Auto 5 for highest rated games from the modern era. Here's an excerpt of some reviews. Number one, Elden Ring is a fantastic game that can still deliver the unmatched thrill of defeating a tough boss after an hours-long battle. Oh, I feel that. Those who worship at the Church of Souls-like will find a game that's basically everything they ever wanted. This for us from Video Games Chronicle, a 5 out of 5. That's basically 10 out of 10. IGN's review says Elden Ring is a massive iteration on what From Software began with the Souls series, bringing its relentlessly challenging combat to an incredible open world that gives us the freedom to choose our own paths. 10 out of 10. Game Informer says Elden Ring challenged me, captivated me, and enchanted me, an unyielding deluge of discovery and artistic vision unbound. Elden Ring represents a truly amazing combination of various game elements that all come together to create something fascinating, special, and unforgettable. Elden Ring isn't just the best game this year, it's one of the best games ever made. Also a 10 out of 10. Review in progress by GameSpot. Elden Ring takes the charts of what came before and forges them into something that will go down in history as one of the all-time greats. A triumph in design and creativity, and an open world game that distinguishes itself for what it doesn't do as much as what it does. Even though it's a review in progress, the tentative score is a 10 out of 10 also. And then our favorite, Skill Up. Elden Ring is a work of such breathtaking immensity that it dwarfs any other comparable experience. Unfathomably large and fathoms deep, Elden Ring is a double album offering from Software at the absolute peak of their creative power. Paul, 2 weeks ago, we were like, I think we're going to be fine skipping Elden Ring for now. We're playing Sifu, a very hard game. Horizon is coming. That seems like it's going to be huge. I mean, From Software is good. Their games have always been reviewing really well. So unless it reviews absurdly high, I don't think we have to jump in. And then the morning on Wednesday, I had to put in the meme of that Tom meme of the distressed face of like, this Elden Ring reviews.
Yep.
10 out of 10's almost across the board. That was like, this is insane. I had not seen, but here's the thing. I started getting a feel of like what was happening based on some conversations that were happening from the media group that I found from like that Saturday leading into the review embargo. I was like, man, I remember something similar happening with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild back in 2017. I was like, can it possibly have a repeat where we're going to have another massively almost GOAT status game released literally the same week or a week after another Horizon?
And here we are.
Here we are. So we were like, we saw that. I was like, Paul.
Oh
And in fact, you actually said, it's like Mardi Gras. You're in the middle of Mardi Gras craziness. You're like, yeah, I think Mardi Gras is going to be my style. Like, I won't be able to play much because of Mardi Gras and all the insanity that's happening here. And then those reviews happen. I was like, nah, we're buying.
Yep. I said, I was like, I'm enjoying Horizon enough. I don't want to get Elden Ring right now. We can wait till April, was what we were saying, and we were going to agree to that. And then you said, you posted all of those 10s. You're like, we got to get this.
Yes, we got to see it. Like, we got to see it. Like,
and,
so,
you know, if I'm honest, at first I didn't feel it. And I know you didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
you felt it even more.
Yeah, I immediately, it was the Thursday when the game came out.
Yeah. So
I had just been playing Destiny for a little bit. I switched to that. I was like, okay, let's do this. And then immediately I was like, oh, this looks a little old. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but after you see Demon's Souls remake and how great that looks, like how next gen that thing looks, and going to this is like, okay. And then originally I picked a samurai because I had heard stuff. It was like, oh yeah, this takes inspiration from all the From Software games that have come up. And then I remember it's like, if I didn't really vibe with Sekiro, but one of the things that I really vibed was the combat in a way, especially the cling that you can do with like the parrying. So I was like, so if this is gonna have like some Sekiro, I'm gonna pick a samurai. But no, it's more like Dark Souls. This is Dark Souls 4 and everything but name.
It is.
And going to the world and getting like murdered everywhere and seeing it stuttering, I was like, something's fishy about all this in man's 10 out of 10 reviews that I feel gets more like whenever you have something more praised, I feel immediately when you're coming in knowing everyone has almost that unanimous claim of best game of all time, 10 out of 10 everywhere, it can make you the one that hasn't played it and has that kind of hanging over their head. You look at everything more with like a clear glass.
Yeah.
And then the mistakes start like piling up. I remember it was like, yeah, I'm not vibing with this. And I touched it it was on Thursday and I stopped playing. I was like, yeah, going back to Destiny. And you were like, yeah, this feels like Dark Souls. And I think you start playing more about it. Tell me about your initial experience there.
So my initial experience, I started up, I spent about 30 to 40 minutes on the character creation by itself because Dark Souls has always had, or From Software games, excuse me, has always had like a very in-depth, but also very easily or hard to dial in kind of character creator, where you can create monstrosities like that no one has ever seen nor want to see. But it was really entertaining because I enjoyed that. That was completely unrelated to any of this. Once I finally started the game, it was really late and I only got to play it for a little bit, and that was only the tutorial tunnel area. And I was
that you can completely skip if you don't look to your right.
And I almost did. Because in all Dark Souls and everything else, fall damage is a real thing, and you can't go more than about 10 feet without possibly killing yourself by falling. And this is not that. You can fall like 4 stories and you will not take damage. You'll just take stamina. And it's still a little vague on how much damage you can take with that, but that was one thing that threw me off at first, and then everything else was like really cut and dry. This is the most basic part of Dark Souls. Like, it's the same tunnel I've gone through, or cave that I've gone through a million times before.
The impression was like, what is here that hasn't already been done in a Demon Souls game, 3 Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. It felt like one of those games, which were highly regarded.
And the art was really cool, the voiceover was really cool, so I like kind of had this like, okay, let's see it, let's feel it. I'm seeing these like possible future bosses and stuff, I'm curious. But then like I finally opened the door and I was like, okay, it's cool, it's pretty, but let's see what happens. And I don't think it clicked like with you until after you receive the mount, you meet your maiden, and then like slowly things start unwinding, and they're like, okay, this is how the game is supposed to be played. I
actually ditched my samurai and went back to the character creation. Be like, I'm gonna pick a different class because I'm not vibing. I think I should be faster as a samurai than the game is letting me. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick a warrior like I always do with the Dark Souls games. I keep reading that's sometimes not the best idea because people like spamming magic.
Yeah. But what's the
I
warrior? That's the one with the
Vagabond.
axe.
No, that's the Vagabond. That's the very first one that you
Oh,
pick. Yeah,
okay,
that's
yeah.
like you have the huge list.
Yeah.
You pick, what's the name of your class? The dude
The
that looks like a monk.
confessor. Confessor.
Yeah, the confessor that looks like a
Because
monk
he
from a
had
Catholic
like,
church.
yeah, he had healing and like an assassin-ish run,
Mhm.
which I loved just the way he looked, because from the back the cloak moves in real time, and it reminded me of like Bloodborne jackets,
Mhm.
because just like the clothing on the in that game is fantastic, and I felt that with this, where it had like a weight to it that I really
Mhm.
liked watching as it ran, almost like Batman's cape.
Mhm.
And when that's done really well, that's like one of my favorite things, so that's why I picked that.
Yeah, I almost picked it, but then I was like, you know what? Let's make this more fun. I'm not gonna pick the exact class Paul did. I want to see what my experience is like with another class.
Yeah.
That's more in tune with the kind of classes I picked when I tried the other Souls games that I never finished. But that game really, especially when you're in the open world, automatically clicks when you reach one of the resting points and you meet that spirit that gives you your mount. The mount is the game changer when you're moving in that world, because like what this reviewer says, like I kind of understood where they were coming from, saying that this took like the Breath of the Wild formula and meaningfully evolved it in a more like player agency, in a more of a player agency way. This game has like no drive. Absolutely, there's like no objective. There is no defeat Ganon. You know how like Breath of the Wild is like gives you the player agency to tackle how you want that world, but you know at the end of the day your main objective is that castle. There really is no main objective here, and by doing that, it encourages exploration in a way I have not seen in a game like in forever. Even like as we were praising something like Horizon Forbidden West kind of like took some good cues about like the vague exploration that kind of rewards curiosity. You still know that in this place there's a question mark. You don't know what you're gonna find there, but there's a question mark there. No question marks here. Everything is just there for you to find. Obviously, there's messages that other people leave you that may or may not give you a tip, but being able to like explore that and just having a massive giant emerge from the ground when you're like walking or going through a lake and seeing a dragon, and those are the kind of things like they feel magical, because like, oh, I was not expecting this here, and this game is littered with that.
I went to probably one of my favorite moments, and like I knew of it, but still walking around a corner and seeing it was a walking mausoleum. And it was literally, I was kind of running through an area and there was just this wide expanse, and it's not active or aggressive at all, but it is a building with like rock legs just walking through this area, and there's a bell underneath that dings every once in a while, and you can hear it like ringing through the valley as you ride by it, and you're just like, what the crap, like that's a skyscraper on legs just chilling.
And you can kill it, right?
You can hit its legs and like crystals, and then you can go inside, and that's how you actually duplicate the special souls that bosses drop. It is in the game. It lets you take that soul and double it.
And you right there just like exemplified what makes this game so special. I had not even seen that. Exactly. And you hear so many stories. I think you put it in a way, it's like hearing an individual player's experience of the kind of places they found by just exploring. It feels like you're reading the Odyssey in a way. It's like, it's just so strange, like seeing the descriptions happening. Like I had quite an experience yesterday when I played this. So on Saturday I picked the game back up, and that's when I picked the next class and went to the first dungeon where you fight the cat statue with like with the weird like
was. They were like, it moves like it's glitched.
Yes, but it's not.
It was so unsettling the way it moves, but it's so effective.
Yes, and then when you kill it, it's like there's something about Souls games that as soon as you kill your first boss, you're feeling, oh, okay, I'm vibing with this. Like, so after I killed that on Sunday, I immediately started. There's a gold knight at the very beginning when you go into the open world. If you just go with him like in your initial, like non-upgraded, you're gonna get destroyed. But I had already leveled up a little bit, and I was vibing more by having the mount. I went to fight that gold knight and beat it once in like my first try.
Nice.
Just by patiently like hitting him with a strong attack, circling back, waiting for him to do it and doing it, just play that game of cat and mouse and killing it. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go explore. Found the dragon and beat the dragon also in one try. And then at the point I had like 7,000 echoes. I'm like, man, this is much easier than other Souls games. I kind of really vibing. Is this easier because of how wide open it is now compared to other Souls games that are more like narrowed focused?
Yeah.
And has like a specific point.
Then I think it's one of those things that's like, because you have so many options, it doesn't feel frustrating because you're throwing yourself at one problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gascoigne from Bloodborne is like, that is your only option.
Exactly. If you don't beat him, you're like, there's no way you can like keep going. And this game does have its own Father Gascoigne. We're gonna talk a lot about it in a little bit. But yeah, after I kill the dragon, there's like a little area that has some enemies bundled up and a little dungeon there. So I kept exploring, and then I opened the chest. This chest had a mist. Then that mist captured me and sent me into this horrifying crystal-like tunnel all the way to the other edge of the map.
Yeah.
Where I was making little dents into enemies. And I, being the stubborn idiot, despite having 7,000 echoes, I didn't immediately go to upgrade myself. So I got killed twice there and losing those 7,000 echoes. And I immediately I was texting Paul in our group chat that we have at Escape, and I had never been more angry at a video game. Years. I was this close shutting it down, and because immediately when I got killed like twice, I quit it out of the game. I was like, no, I'm gonna quit out. But this game like saves every single thing. So there's no way to undo your mistake.
You're not gonna get away.
Yeah, and I was like so darn angry. I was like, my God, I was like, all that high of having beaten the knight and the dragon back to back once,
gone,
and then getting screwed by me being a curious monkey going there and opening chests, because this game is obviously like encouraging exploration and sending you into a place where you're barely denting these enemies that are like weird larvas with like sticks, and this like grandpas that are like full of crystal stuff that look like White Walkers in a way that is you just start hitting them and then they parry you, they grab the stick, smash, and then do like an area of effect thing that one hit kills you. Oh my
God.
It's like that was happening there. And then immediately I was like, I'm not gonna engage with any of these. I'm escaping here. I'm gonna find my way through the tunnels until I finally found the resting space. I was like, man, this is frustrating. And then I walked out and I'm in this area, this like weird lake with red sky. So I was like, wow, this is stunning. And in that area, there's this like tumor / testicle giant things that are kind of standing and wobbling that when you kill them gives you like 500 plus echoes by killing them. So I spend the next 30 minutes looping between those four, killing them and resetting, killing them because I had the resting point there, and quickly recovered my 7,000 echoes. Immediately upgraded myself and then did it again, another 7,000 to kind of farm. And it allowed me to like take the crestfallen nature of my mistake for not upgrading myself, and found a cool farming spot if I want to spend some time just to keep leveling up, because sometimes leveling up makes the difference in the Souls games. And then from that moment, I then took the mainline path into this game's Father Gascoigne, which is what it was called, Margit or
Margit.
Margit, yes.
Marjit, I think.
3 hours, Paul, it took me to beat this bastard. How long did it take you?
2 attempts after I came back to him, because my process for that was once I finally realized that you're not supposed to go straight to him, even though the first NPC you see says go there. That is more of a suggestion, because at first I threw myself at him like over and over again, and I was like, why is he
also,
so hard?
Not just the NPC tells you, it's like if you're in the resting points, you're gonna see like some light that's kind of like pointing somewhere,
which
so the light
leads
you that way.
But I realized after the fact, and so did everyone else, is that they want to throw you against that wall so you see what you're expecting, because I didn't realize that there was so much behind me. And once I did, I went, oh, so I'm just gonna explore all this. So I like found out where
Which
some
is
of
what
the
I did. That's
tunnels
where I fought
were.
the dragon.
Exactly. The dungeon, that lake that you found the dragon at, the bridge across to the Weeping Continent, and then you just find all this other stuff. And even now, I'm like still not quite done with that. I reached a point where I was like, I feel, excuse me, I feel like I've reached a point where I think I can handle this guy. And so I go in, I summon the sorcerer dude
Mhm.
that usually just takes all the hits, that poor guy.
By the way, I
And then
learned that you're penalized with your damage if you summon someone. I didn't know that yesterday. I wish I knew.
I didn't know that, but usually I always considered it worth it, because just the fact that it's bouncing between you and somebody else makes it so much easier, because at least one of you is getting free
Yeah.
hits.
However,
So it goes faster.
the beast summons that you can do, they don't penalize you. So like I have the wolves. I had like the mini zombies that you can pop them. I found a rat summon also in the.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Found a rat
So I found the regular nobles, I think they call them. I found a noble sorcerer. I haven't summoned that one.
I did that
group
one
of
with the dragon.
wolves, and then the jellyfish. The wolves, I don't even have enough of the points to actually summon them. So I can't actually use that until I upgrade my, I think, intelligence or whatever. But it was crazy. So I like summon the jellyfish immediately, and it's like just this giant thing that starts firing like poison. The sorcerer is going in at it, and I was so worried that it would like get hit twice and be gone, but it was like it had some health to it. So just the fact that it was there, the sorcerer guy and me, and I just wiped the floor with him.
Yes, and
it
then
felt so good.
And then if you're lucky with the jellyfish, because I learned about the jellyfish by you, which by the way is like, this is like a tangent. Don't feel bad about asking for help with Souls games.
Oh, dude,
people have so many different experiences. This is the playground NES era of video games. Of like, people have their different experiences that you're gonna find things that you don't know. Don't feel bad about feeling like you have to find everything on your own playthrough on your own. This game is all about that communal experience. Without Paul telling me, oh yeah, that NPC that I actually knew where it was, if you keep talking to her until you run out of audio, she's gonna give you the jellyfish. And that jellyfish is like literally life and death for this Magret boss, because if your jellyfish hits that Magret enough, it will poison him in perpetuity. So
and he just keeps losing health as you fight, and even after, if the jellyfish dies, if the sorcerer dies, as long as he's like kind of distracted, and like he gets stunned pretty often as well. So if you can use that to your advantage as well, it's like I use the two-hander weapon that you find randomly in that one camp, so it's like stunning him. So I'm like trying to stun lock him while the jellyfish hits him, and the sorcerer's
I don't have the weapon,
him, and he's like in the camp with all of the regular soldiers.
In front of the resting spot where you meet the ghost.
Yes, there are two carriages. One of them has something in it. There's another, and that has
I have the other one that I can't use because of my attributes. Maybe it's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just you have to boost your strength like a little bit more, and then you can use it.
How much longer? I'm strength 24. That's what I've been boosting.
No, you should definitely have it by then. Maybe it's dexterity then.
Yeah.
Usually you have to have dexterity and a little bit of strength as well.
So before I killed Magret, like in the moment where it happened, I had run out of flasks. I had this of health.
Really?
And he did the stupid jump thing.
Yeah.
And it was almost health. And somehow I had enough in my green, despite it not being full, that then when I covered myself, it still had enough green where I could put the R2 and do like and that's how I kill him. Like at that moment, it was like, this is gonna be a one-hit kill. I'm gonna freaking hate this game when it happens. I'm gonna have to do this again. And then that happened. I was like, it happened. And then the trophy popped. It's like, oh, that's like, that's how you feel with this game, with these games, with against insurmountable odds. But that's how you feel with all the Souls games. That's not exclusive to this one.
Right. And it's all the ups and downs. It's the, you get destroyed or you get greedy about something and you go all the way back to it, but it's like you're learning from all that stuff. I mean, I know we keep saying that whole process every once in a while, where it's like when you play Dark Souls, it's not just your character getting better, but it's you getting better. And to the point where you can go back at the end of the game And if you played that first boss again, you would destroy it just based on your own built up skills by itself.
Exactly.
And like that's something that few games have really captured, I would say, because
And I
you're
think,
always held back by
yeah,
limitations.
and I think it's the whole thing about it being the open world, having so much that you can explore,
Hmm.
is probably the game changer here. That before the in previous Souls games, because of its sometimes linear structure, despite Dark Souls being like very interconnected and all that, there's always that, you're at that one point where you have to go through one specific area, and it can be hard, and that it can be discouraging because you can't do anything else but going through that. That's happened to me with Dark Souls 3 after fighting these two dudes that then like has that weird cutscene where there's like blood popping before you go into a catacombs. That's where I stopped with Dark Souls 3 and haven't been
Oh,
able to
yeah,
go
yeah,
back. It's
yeah.
still early
Okay.
on. Like, if this game had been traditional, you would only have to do Magritte or like the Father
Yep.
Gascon we're talking about,
You just have to
Bloodborne.
keep going until you won, but now it's like
You have this
you
entire
have,
world. You have a game's worth of world in the
yep.
south to go explore and get better, maybe find something cooler. And I think that's probably like for people that are scared to try a Souls game because they hear about how difficult they are and all that. This has made them a tiny bit more accessible in a way that I feel
Yeah.
more people will be more willing to kind of like give in into this game's eccentricities than previous Souls games. I think that's where Elden Ring kind of is a step above from what's From Software has done before, without sacrificing itself as a From Software game that they don't give an F about you being beaten in a corner, abused by your bosses, and being like, "Oh, the game is an easy mode." No, Hidetaka Miyazaki said, "No, get good, mother efforts."
Yep.
That's what they like. He likes doing that.
However, they are clever about helping
Mm-hmm.
audiences because, like I mentioned to you, if you were still having trouble with our good friend Margit, to anybody listening, the devs actually created an item specifically to help you in that fight because they knew that people were going to have trouble with it. But if you stayed with it long enough, that you would find out about where this was. You can go get it, and then you use it. It's like a spell, and it locks him to the floor for several seconds, and you can use it multiple times until it runs out. And it holds him there, and you can just keep wailing on him until eventually he dies. So it doesn't like break the game or the fight, but it makes it significantly easier if you do.
This
So
is
it's
like
like there's always something.
I finally learned it's like some bosses are really cheap. Don't feel bad about being cheap about them.
Oh yeah.
There's no right way to
This is the
fight any of
Sifu
these. Yes.
school where you use every dirty trick in the book to get it. Like I have fought so many enemies that I've only beat because they've accidentally killed each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like I did, I'm fighting these birds with swords for feet,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes, in the castle. Mm-hmm.
there is an area where they actually start off with an explosive barrel at their feet where they start the fight by throwing it at you. I aggroed two of them at once, and one of them threw it into the second one trying to hit me, and it killed the other one. And there was like this crazy boil-filled dude, like the boss in Sekiro, like the alcoholic samurai guy. And he looked like that, and he had this huge dog with him, and both are really painful. But the dude swings his giant sword. He just killed the dog one time, and that was the only reason I survived.
Yeah.
So it's like you use every trick you can, use the environment. Watch that one episode of The Last Airbender where Sokka becomes a sword master, where he uses his environment against his enemies. Because I did that against one of those spear and shield dudes. I got on some rocks and I kept hopping around to like use that to my advantage and avoid shots. I felt like I was in a samurai movie. It was amazing. But like, just to kind of wrap up my thoughts on it, it's the game where you have the endless potential, and it actually is the case. There's no like set up that, like there's no lore that's proceeding from that. Like it's all new, it's easily approachable to anybody who's never
Mm-hmm.
touched the series. And every time that you do something and then you hear about your friend who also had a completely different experience, some random story that sounds like Greek mythology, and you're just like, gosh, that sounds cool. And it keeps expanding and expanding, and your options for fighting are growing. More weaponry, more spells, more summons. And it's like you just have all this stuff you can do. And it's like the world is your oyster, and we're finally getting to that point where we can
Mm-hmm.
have those kind of games where it doesn't feel like too much, but it's like this whole world was made for me to have fun, and I can spend as much time as I want
Exactly.
finding it throughout
I
years.
also mentioned this, like it almost feels like a game designed to give you as much entertainment as you're willing to extract from it because of its lack of any true narrative drive. Like I put 8 hours into it. I think you put 10. I think I saw your the clock that you showed
right at the end of the night.
At the end of the night. So I'm surprised you only played 2 more hours than me.
I'm kind of surprised too. I thought I had.
I put a lot of time. I put a lot of time on Sunday after playing a lot of Destiny. It's a game like every other Souls game. Initially, it will be obtuse, especially if you have never touched one of these. Like, you're eventually going to be like, this doesn't make sense. This sucks. Why do people really like this? Souls games have, Souls games have this thing where if you're really willing to accept this game on its terms, what it's trying to teach you without not holding your hand, and having that eureka moment. Once a Souls game clicks, it will dominate your mind. You will not stop thinking about it. You will daydream and dream about it. And even when you're playing other games, you're gonna be like, I kind of want to keep playing Elden Ring. I said yesterday after I went to the castle and entered a place where entered a wine cellar from the side and then opened the door and there's this knight there that wanted to kill me. I was like, I literally said this. I think I've had my fill for today. I'm gonna try something else before I go to
listen to that. Anybody listening, listen to that urge when you're like, I think I'm done for today. Don't keep playing.
Yes,
it's only going to get worse. Like, and don't have pride. Look up tips and tricks videos. Look up examples of like how a mechanic works if it doesn't make sense to you, because that's not on you.
Or if you forgot about something, especially if you forgot about something, there's so many systems here that you're bound to forget that there's something that could have been a game changer. But yeah, I got killed by that knight, and I already was like, yeah, I'm close to a checkpoint here. It's like I can come back later. I wasn't feeling sleep. I went back to Horizon because I had not touched it for the whole week. Obviously, I had that big. I mentioned earlier. It's like, man, this game's pretty. It's like this game does look like it belongs on the PS5 generation compared to Elden Ring. After 30 minutes, I was like, I kind of want to go back to Elden Ring. I was like, we've
done it.
Yeah, it's like it happened. The Bloodborne thing that happened to me in March 2015, it finally happened. It's like this game is. I kind of want to keep going at it, want to keep pushing to see before I hit another wall. It is that kind of game. And do I agree with 10 out of 10 scores across the board? I feel this game has enough of problems with its technical performance in a way. There's like stuttering now. There's like there are reports that the PC versions day one patch borked the game, where it's like now like running really inconsistently, like worse than it was in the review environment. That it's kind of crazy. I feel like at least in the kind of like I mentioned, at least the PC side of things, if you see, it's now 95, and the and the audience score is like in the 50s because the port quality isn't all that. So, and
I will say, like, I agree, it's not smooth at all sometimes. Like, your character will look fine, but the environment will start to like stutter as you turn and move.
There's
and,
I've
had moments like I can't play it on my big TV actually, because it's like it starts kind of freaking my eyes out unless I sit really far back, and that's not a problem.
Are you playing in are you prioritizing performance or quality?
Yes.
Okay.
Performance. So yeah, if they could patch that to make it infinitely smooth like Demon Souls is. Oh man, I'll be
because Demon Souls is like upscale 1440p, but it looks so beautiful that you don't mind that it's not the actual full-blown 4K, and it's like runs at perfect 60, which in enclosed spaces Elden Ring does, but when you're out in the world, like the frame rate's all wobbly that it's like it's not smooth at all. Which is funny because Digital Foundry mentioned that the only place where you can actually get a smooth 60 is installing the PS4 version via backwards compatibility on PS5. So you're sacrificing the full 4K resolution or somewhere up there for like 1800p, but it has like the full 60. If you're someone that cares about frame rate so much that you need it to be rock solid, the PS4 version on a PS5 is the way to go. Or if you have an Xbox Series X and you have a TV or monitor that does variable refresh rates, that despite the game's frame rate kind of like fluctuating, the display will kind of like force like a smooth resolution that helps hide the judder. But those are expensive TVs, so buyer beware there. So it has this kind of imperfections. It's like when you hear 10 out of 10, obviously many people say just because we give a game a 10 doesn't mean this is perfect or flawless.
Yeah, I do think it gives across the wrong connotation though, because if they have something that's big enough of a problem, I think it should go down to a 9 for the tech, because people are going to see the number, not the reason.
Yeah.
And what I think needs to happen is the number needs to reflect the problem that needs to be dealt with, so that more people understand what needs to be fixed.
And there's also something to be said that from a bunch of these reviews, not everyone finished the game. And they slapped the review.
Really did.
There's some of the IGN review put 87 hours and finished it. Yeah. The EC Allies guys, I didn't put the review here. They gave it a 9.5. The dude there, Brad, he finished it. Game Informer 1 finished it also. GameSpot has review in progress. He played like 60 hours. So he's like, yeah, I only played 60 hours. I feel this is a 10, but I'm putting review in progress. It's kind of like a caveat.
Is it really going to be the end of spring before I finish this game?
Yeah. So there's something to be said. It's like, yeah, that's what they experienced. Obviously, for them, the experience was good, like so good that they were willing to slap a 10 without even finishing it. At the same time, you also have to keep in mind that Souls games are such that obviously a fan of these games are gonna play it. So this is a 10 out of 10 to Souls fans. So if you're not a Souls fan, maybe don't be surprised if you see, holy crap, a 97 Metacritic now, 95 in the other systems, and it's like 10 out of 10s everywhere. I'm gonna buy this. Everyone's like so up in this game's butt, like praising it, and then you don't feel the same. So that's always the danger of just following scored reviews. Obviously, it's when you hear something praised, it makes it worth like, okay, this might be worth looking at, but don't look at these reviews as like, this is gospel. This is what it is. This is the objective truth. There's never objective truth, especially when it comes to Souls games. It's like, there's a reason, despite them growing in popularity, is like the Souls here, like now Souls, I never expected what used to be niche back in Dark Souls. It's like just a few but they're very passionate to have grown like this. But obviously there's some hype behind this, so just keep that in mind. It's like this game is not flawless. This just because it has 10 out of 10, but it does things better than I've seen most games do. I will say that. It's like when I mentioned, it's like that freedom and that moment it clicks. Rarely any game has that click in that you just want to live through it. So I'm gonna keep playing it more. I never expected to say that because I was all over Horizon, and but I will say is like, depending on how soon things go in March, I'm down to play this in Horizon for March, but we'll see with everything else. Any final thoughts on Elden Ring, Paul?
I think I've got everything that's going to be happening. I'm sure I'll have a few more thoughts by next week, along with all of these games, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to play anything else.
Yes.
And
I will say it's much easier. It's much easier to jump between Destiny and Elden Ring than it is jumping from Elden Ring to Horizon. I thought it was going to happen, but Elden Ring is just so, for all its imperfections and the highs and lows, it's a game that just has stayed with me, and I'm gonna keep going because I definitely want to see how far I can push it before I'm out. It's number 2, Paul, in the news. So the fall season for the year 2023 just got mighty interesting. According to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, the Call of Duty game scheduled for 2023, developed mainly by Treyarch, is reportedly being delayed out of 2023 into 2024, with sources saying it's more a response to the tepid response to Call of Duty Vanguard and mainline releases starting to cannibalize each other, and has nothing to do with the Activision-Microsoft deal, which is still going under scrutiny by the FTC and all the antitrust people. While Activision hasn't outright confirmed this delay, we know Schreier is pretty reliable, and this would mark a seismic shift in the gaming industry when the franchise, almost always responsible to sell the most in any given year, despite good or bad entries, is going to skip a fall season for the first time since 2005's Call of Duty 2. As for the Microsoft Activision deal, a recent development arose where one of the shareholders is suing both companies in an effort to hold the deal from going through. This broke literally when we finished recording last week. And it was already in the can. I had already rendered it, and then I'll go to Twitter. It's like, what? Call of Duty is actually skipping a year for the first time in
What a way to find that out.
Yes. In 17, almost 18 years. Can you believe that, Paul, that every freaking year since 2005 has had a Call of Duty? Obviously, Call of Duty came out in 2003. 2004 didn't have a Call of Duty, but it had an expansion for the PC game. Since 2003, Call of Duty has been a thing. And then it became an annualized thing that Activision somehow didn't manage to run into the ground like they did Guitar Hero, like they did Tony Hawk, like other series they had that they kept pumping games all the time until people were sick of them. But
pour one out for those that we lost along the way.
Absolutely.
I'm still miss like Guitar Hero and Rock Band phases.
Yes.
But anyway, for this, it's honestly, I'm so excited about this. I'm so happy. I think that like I didn't get into Call of Duty really because I was a Medal of Honor kid. I grew up with that mainly, and that was still like the old style of first-person shooters. That was more that GoldenEye style. And once I played, I think I played Call of Duty either 2 or 3, and I was like, okay, that's cool. All right, whatever. And then
you didn't find it bad. You didn't find it better than Medal of Honor because that was.
I didn't care a lot about first-person shooters back in the day. It was all about like the third-person, either platformers, action games, or licensed characters that I recognized. I had not great taste, and it wasn't until like that 2006 or 7 or 8, I think, that I started realizing what I liked and what was good.
Yeah.
But at least for this, Modern Warfare 2, I got it for Christmas and I didn't open it, and I kept playing everything else that I got instead. And it wasn't until all of my friends were playing Modern Warfare 2 that I ripped this plastic off, put it in, and found out what I was missing. And that crap blew my mind because I played the campaign first, like, and I was kind of on the little chat where they give you that one little earpiece so you could talk to your buddies, but you still had to listen to the game. And like, even though I didn't have any context for what was going on, because I never played Modern Warfare 1, I was like, this is freaking nuts. I need to go find out what happened before this immediately. And then I played like hours and hours with all my friends. But I went back later on to play stuff like World at War and the original Call of Duties. And I was like, oh, I get how like they got to this point. But so like Call of Duty has a special place in my heart, especially when November rolls around, because I'm like, I always loved watching my roommate play it right when it came out, and like seeing all the stuff. I didn't even really want to play it as much as I wanted to watch somebody play it.
It's like it was like almost clockwork. You knew that when November came around, you knew there was a Call of Duty there, and Call of Duty, it's always that kind of like reliable comfort food of giving you a brief campaign. It's multiplayer that can be addicting until it isn't, and whatever co-op flavor it is. Call of Duty to me was like what I jumped into when Medal of Honor started slipping for me. By the time European Assault came out in like 2004, 2005, the quality of those games were like getting worse and worse. It's like, man, I'm not vibing with this. And then I remember my dad bought Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1 on the original Xbox. That's when we first trying it. It was like, this Call of Duty thing, not too bad. And then my dad, while visiting the States, he in one of the GameStops had the, you remember when, I think they still have them, that you can go play some games because they have the console and play them.
It depends on where you go, but some of them still have it.
Yes. So back then that was more common. Call of Duty 2 was running and he tried it. And that's literally what convinced him. We're getting that 360. Obviously, I talked to you about how important Call of Duty 4 was for me, and getting it in the wrong system kind of put me in the weird allegiance. But yeah, Call of Duty has existed in my life since 2005. And even as I kind of tapered off from the series, for it being like something that I evangelized Call of Duty. To me, like my fandom reached its peak with Modern Warfare 2. After that, my brother was the one that was a bigger fan than I am, but I still kept playing them because I was like, I'm used to it. This is like the comfort. I know what I'm getting into every year. It's now really, I never thought I was going to get to this place, because obviously Assassin's Creed was also annualized at a certain point. Until it wasn't, and that was very interesting going into the post. Like, wow, it's weird. There's no Assassin's Creed this year after getting 8 years of this, and now this is almost 18 years. Because I didn't put it here. It's like the Call of Duty has come out this year, which is Modern Warfare 2. Ironically, it's gonna be now the one that's gonna be supported for 2 years, and obviously,
which good,
because that's still I prefer Modern Warfare package better than Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War or Vanguard, even though I think the Cold War campaign is slightly more fun than Modern Warfare. But
in hindsight, the Cold War had a lot more twists and turns that had me like, oh shoot.
And because the game is more pulpy, it could be because obviously, like I mentioned, it's like I feel like Modern Warfare's 2019 campaign strives for that. We're ripping out from the headlines. We're super serious and all that.
And we had that whole conversation.
Exactly. It's like one. It was the one thing holding back that campaign, despite the technology of that campaign being so sound, its mechanics being so cool, like being so solid. So it's gonna be a sequel to that. So good. I feel a lot of the people are still so up Call of Duty's butt are gonna be happy that if one entry that for the paid entry is gonna be the one that's gonna be supported for longer, is gonna be that one. And I wonder now, especially with the Activision Microsoft deal, if it goes through, I can see it like Microsoft is not the one that likes annualizing stuff. They like maybe biannual in a way. They used to be annual with like switching Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon, and then even they dropped off that and just stuck with that because the reality is that development is more expensive. Development is harder now with the new machines. It was probably almost impossible to keep a yearly thing at the quality they like keeping it. And they were even mentioned, it's like there's reports Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and Vanguard were like on fire in their development. They had to like put every freaking development studio they possibly could to get those games out. So it was just not gonna be sustainable. So I'm really into it's like it tells you how badly, quote unquote, despite still being the best-selling game of 2021, how badly Vanguard undershot what Activision was on, that they were the ones who were like, you know what? Let's delay the Treyarch one, have a little bit more extra year. That's very cathartic because Black Ops 4 had to have their development time cut off because they needed to get it out before Red Dead. And they suffered for that. And that game suffered for that. So
just having like tutorial cinematics instead of an actual cutscene. I mean, campaign. There we go.
They had to cut out.
Ugh, that was, and it basically, I mean, at least to me, it honestly looked identical to 3. So, that was not a great time for Call of Duty at all. But ever since then, I think they've kind of hit a better stride. Even
after that was Modern Warfare. So yes.
I mean, Modern Warfare, Cold War, and even like, I mean, I don't hear or see anything from Vanguard at all. But it's
Vanguard was a fart in the wind in every way, shape, or form. And I think it just, I'm shocked that they didn't hit this point sooner. The existence of Warzone should have allowed them to like delay their premium product like beforehand, because if things were this on fire for 2 years in a row, the just existence of Warzone itself, if they need a Call of Duty something in a year, that's there. And that's still a moneymaker. That's what my brother plays. They're doing a Warzone 2 because now the app that is housing all the last 4 Call of Duties together is like so packed that they're like, no, this is not sustainable. We need to like clean technology break.
Like 300 by now. For gigabytes.
It's insane. It's just insanity.
Like I remember trying to download all of it and it was like 260 gigs or something around that point. And that was like a year ago now.
The one that suffered the most about this was actually Modern Warfare, because Modern Warfare is the one most tied to Warzone. Like the Modern Warfare client is like, it's at its base, it's a Warzone client, and then having to download everything on top of that.
And it's just making too much. The main game worse. Perform worse.
The campaign is unplayable now. I've heard reports that it's
the cinematics will like stutter and jump, and it's I thought that was just because I was playing it on PS5, but I guess
that's also a problem. That's also a problem. But then it started getting worse. Like for a system that loads everything so quick, like the PS5. The cutscenes were not even loading at a certain point. So it's like it's interesting time for Call of Duty. Obviously, just the Activision deal itself was gonna bring in some changes into the good side and behind the scenes where all the shitty people being put out, but also what was gonna happen to the games. It's interesting. Now we're going to see that before even this deal comes through. But I'm glad that Vanguard hit them where they needed to hit them.
I agree.
Final story, Paul. This dropped last night when we were recording.
I know, right?
If you thought you had your Pokemon fill for the year after the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, during Pokemon Day, the Pokemon Company finally revealed Generation 9 of Pokemon with Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. That's a lot of Pokemon in one sentence. This will be the first mainline Pokemon entry since Sword and Shield in the fall of 2019, and it's set to mix the traditional Pokemon tried and true tropes with the open world mechanics introduced in Legends Arceus. The games are scheduled to release late in 2022, which means they're aiming for the late November release that has always served the mainline entries well. Editor's note, with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 scheduled for September and now this game's likely aiming for traditional release slot, this either means the sequel to Breath of the Wild is the big October game or it punts to 2023. We had a debate. We had a debate in our chat where I said I have not made it a secret that I thought Arceus looked like butt. I believe that and I stood by it. When I saw this trailer, I was like, this game still doesn't look pretty. It still has that Switch low res that it's like it need better hardware now.
Yeah.
But it looked more colorful. It looked a little bit more lush. It didn't look that ugly to me. I feel it felt like an improvement, despite our good friend Zach saying it looked the same. And our friend PJ actually pointed out what made it look better, which was texturing and lighting. Yeah. And I can see that like everything being the same and those tiny things being the thing that makes it better.
Yeah.
I haven't played a mainline Pokemon game since Sapphire on GBA. I mentioned it today. We had a long Pokemon conversation today about me figuring out how many.
I was jumping in and out, but you and Zach were like really going into the encyclopedia levels of internet knowledge about like the movies and the show and all that.
And kind of seeing when I stopped as a Pokemon fan, kind of like where I kind of let go. It was after the third movie in like 2001. And then never seeing the anime. Wow. The anime never continued here, at least in a way that made sense. I was always watching reruns of the Indigo League and all that. So that's why in my mind I was like, oh yeah, the anime was just from that. Now learning, it has 18 seasons.
Yep.
It's been going for 18
years. It just keeps going. And honestly, each one feels like it's almost completely untouched by the others, because it's always he leaves everything behind and then he takes Pikachu and he goes to the new place and then it's like a whole new storyline.
Mm-hmm. But it's still Ash. Ash is always
still Ash. Yeah, it's your boy.
Yeah, so that's what I all found interesting. Yeah, so I get, because I was trying to debate myself, I was like, why is Gen 1 so dominant? And to me it was always up because of the anime. But then that's when Zach was like, no, the anime's always kept going. Then I was like, this is Star Wars all over again. Like the first fans were always going to have a very vocal voice.
I do think like y'all hit the nail on the head, because you were saying how it was really the nostalgia of the cards, the show, and the first games all hitting at the same time have kept the star power since then, just all the way through. Because like, I mean, they branched out in certain ways, even in shaking things up for the Indigo League. At certain point there was a point where they just didn't have Ash in it, and it was like some other dude as the main character for like the Johto
Gold and Silver. Gold and Silver had a different one,
and then they immediately went back on that. But like, imagine a different world where if they had continued that storyline where it just followed the main characters of each game, would have been a very different kind of storyline. And I mean, even now creating, what was it, the Pokemon Origins like limited show, which was like actually the character Red instead of Ash, and Gary but he was called Blue. And it was like crazy stuff.
I will say one of my favorite memories of Pokemon games for me was Gold and Silver, when you eventually go back to Indigo and you can fight basically the entire Red and Blue Yellow game are there if you find a way. And then the very end of that, of following the thread, is you fighting Pokemon Trainer from Yellow, Blue, and Gold with the fully evolved Pokemons that you can have, like the Charizards, the Blastoise, the Ivysaurs.
I remember hearing about it, and I wish I had been able to experience that, because not only getting to go back to the entire first game like that, but fighting your main character from the first game, who is now the Pokemon Master, is like, that's so cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that was so cool. That was an era for me. And then I just dropped literally after Sapphire. I didn't keep up.
Yeah.
It was also because because then when the series became a DS and 3DS, that's when I didn't play. GBA was the last thing I touched there. And
Which, oddly enough, where you stopped was where I actually started. Because Diamond was my first Pokemon game that I actually picked up and played. And I, like, at first I didn't want to take it seriously. It was the Bloodborne and Elden Ring process of, I don't get it. This is weird. And then by the end of like a 5-hour trip, I was hooked and I had to play it.
Do you ever live through the radical church era where Pokemon was satanic and I was like,
yeah,
I remember though really well during the times where I was at most of my fandom. And it's so funny that just like Harry Potter and my mom initially being part of that camp, and now she watches all the Harry Potter movies back to back.
Same. That's with like... my parents as well. I had some Pokemon cards that a friend gave me that he didn't want anymore, and I held them like secretly in my bookshelf, and my mom found them one day and threw them all away. And I was like so sad about it, but it like they weren't even good. I just wanted them because they were Pokemon cards. And the same thing with like Yu-Gi-Oh and everything else. After a while, it was all that kind of
Yu-Gi-Oh I get. Yu-Gi-Oh has more occult stuff that I understand it being more
they were like, this is literally the embodiment of the Egyptian gods and demons, and I was like, oh, this is a little intense. But it was like the next step up for those kids that grew up with Pokemon. But anyway, so, with Pokemon itself, it was like that was all banned, but you still found a way around it.
Yes. So I didn't touch Sword and Shield, which were basically Gen 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I heard mixed things. Obviously, it was reviewing well, but then I was mentioning how like a bunch of the fan base with the Pokedex and the some T-posing animation in the world about how you found the Pokemon was there was so much negative discourse around that I was like, I don't care about this. Obviously then Arceus visually, I just got too hung up with it visually. I was like, not feeling this. But looking at this, been really thinking about it, I was like, will I ever try to give one of these Pokemon games a chance again? Maybe. I mean, it's been what? Sapphire was in 2003. It's been 19 years since I really dove into one of these.
I mean, I would say now is the time, when they start to like change things up. I'd say like see if, as they give more information for this one coming out this year, if it's like kind of what you're going to be vibing with, because I think they improved on all it, just like we called it, is if Arceus does well enough critically with their new open world, they're going to make the whole new game into it. But I think they were already planning on that before then. They just wanted to see how people responded. So maybe they were doing the
and that's what and that's what makes me interested for this one, because I do agree that an open world game like what Arceus does, it's actually really interesting. It just didn't look appealing to me. This one is going to mix that and the traditional Pokemon things that I remember. I want to see how that congrues with both. So,
which I agree, because parts of the Arceus game I still don't really like as much. Like the feudal Japan style is cool, but for me it started to wear on me because I was like, there wasn't really anything out in the world. It was very like bare, very wild, and like I understand that's kind of the point, but also there was like not a whole lot of variation to see. But then it's also a kids game, so I was like, I'm not gonna judge it very harshly, and I felt like the style, what they were trying to go for, was respectable, even if it wasn't like my thing. But like I can see it firsthand. My wife is eating this game up, and she adores every aspect of it, and she's like, man, I hope I get used to this this camera soon, because it's giving me motion sickness. I was like, you poor little child. You're so cute trying to learn. Because at least
at least you mentioned it is like you had the Christmas game for her already, or you know what to buy her for.
It's set aside already now, and I know exactly what I'm getting, and it's going to be this for her. And then if it's good enough, we'll see if I end up getting it too. But then if Breath of the Wild comes out a month before, I'm not touching it.
And because that's the thing, like when Xenoblade and the Nintendo Direct was announced as the September game, I was like, okay, so if Zelda's going to come out, and because they will definitely want Zelda to be the thing, then that's the October-November game. A Pokemon game sells Switches and will Arceus sold 6.5 million copies in like 3 days. That wasn't January,
that's right.
remember?
We talked about that.
So it's like that Pokemon by itself sells a lot. That actually sells more than Zelda. So just from like a financial perspective, I can see Nintendo being like, if Breath of the Wild 2 or the sequel to Breath of the Wild needs more time, they will be willing to push that, because they already basically have their entire year laid out. Only October has kind of like that empty space where they could like insert something.
Yeah.
So if Zelda still
could with December, really, but would they?
It's rare for Nintendo to release something in December. The only exception they did was Smash, because they needed to put out something for that year.
Yeah.
So because
I think this might be a January game.
Yeah. Remember, Breath of the Wild original was March. So there's precedent for Zelda games coming at the beginning of the year. So, and as we're seeing with Elden Ring, is like that's not hurting a lot. So Elden Ring in the UK is like cleaning shop right now in sales.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, good for them.
Yes. I am more letting go of the idea of getting Zelda this year, but I would be surprised. To me, always the red flag is, what's the title? They're not calling it Breath of the Wild 2. They already call it now. Right. So your number one game and most anticipated game of the year may slip, Paul, but
it might continue to be pushed back further, and with my luck, that tracks, because that keeps happening to me. Either it comes out terrible or it gets pushed back forever.
But think about it this way, just with what we've gotten at the beginning of this year, even if Zelda slips, this has already been one hell of a 2022.
We've been
in the game side,
so good that
in the game side, not in the real world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. Games, yes. Everything else, we're not going to touch that right now. But
exactly.
I say overall, I'm really excited for the rest of this year, and especially the long-term changes from Activision with Call of Duty, the new Pokemon direction, and all of these really good action-adventure games that are going to inspire countless more that can't wait till the next wave of that hits.
All right, before we leave, as we're wrapping up, I have to kind of tell you, because I skipped it in the Call of Duty section. I read this horrible joke of saying that Activision delayed Call of Duty because they're waiting for World War III to happen so they can have new content to put out in the game. Considering what's happening right now, it's terrifying.
It's I'm just gonna drink my tea for that one.
Yep. So Paul, where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter, and that's really all I put anything on. I've been adding more art lately. I just finished another major character with the final art for the game that's coming out on April 9th called Sea of Choices, $5 on Steam. And that's I really want to put the main developer on here one day after the game comes out. So
that'd be awesome.
We can like interview him on his process and stuff, because every time I go over, I get to play like an unreleased build of the game, and we talk about like development stuff. But he's also like very self-taught, so sometimes I'll mention to him things from different games, and he's like, I've never heard of that, I'm gonna put that in the game. And so yeah, that would be great. I think I purchased mine, but I think he could definitely do that. But yeah, so that's where y'all can see me and talk about that. Where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at @A_Segovia for some fun retweets. They can find me at Alejandro_Segovia93 on Instagram, where I usually post the episodes and the links to the episodes whenever they go live. And you can find some of my written content at thecriticalcorner.com. I'm still, the Batman comes out this week, so if I watch it, I may review it depending about that, because I've been doing more the Facebook short reviews if I don't feel much to say or much content. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Paul, enjoy the rest of Mardi Gras, and everyone out there, stay safe. Ukrainians, our thoughts are with you, and screw Russia. And Paul, remember,
press X
to play.
Night, everybody.
Hasta luego.